Welcome everybody. Ooh, clearly I got it playing somewhere. But yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining in. We'll be going in a second now. So let me just do one thing and we'll get this going. Okay, let's get it going. So welcome everyone. Welcome for joining. Thank you for all being here. Let's go over a bit of Bitcoin price action for this week. Again, if any of you who want to rewatch this, quite a good reception on last week's one. So yeah, we'll do something similar today. I mean, obviously, hopefully, yeah, we'll do something similar today from that front. And let's start off with Bitcoin, because obviously last week, really Monday, yes, it was on Monday. We were really, we're all the way back down here last week, Monday. And I remember taking the short trade from this high down towards like, I didn't end up taking profit. There's a trade breakdown on that. I don't want to go too much into that nonetheless. But obviously we took the highs before seeing a bit of a pullback. And then obviously since then we've just been shooting really, really rapidly towards the upside. And look where we are now. We're all the way back at 30. We had that swing failure pattern potentially at 31k. So what's the plan next for myself? Well, for me, there's a few stats in mind which I might touch upon slightly as to how this helped me with my bias today. But for the moment, we haven't yet lost any sort of major support, and I'll be going into the order flow side of things in a minute. But we haven't lost any sort of major support. I mean, first of all, I'd like to ask you, are you preferring the darker chart, or would you prefer this? Not to blind anyone in the US who's awake at this time of day. But yeah, what I'm basically saying is that we've had this naked point of control down here. Really, we're finding support off of that for the moment. And obviously for me, when we're trending in these type of trending environments, the volume-based support levels are the most, I tend to find the most important for me, because otherwise, using volume-based support levels, as soon as we see a sign of weakness in terms of losing a volume-based support, generally that's a significant sign that this current trend is coming to an end. But for the moment, this is the current trend in particular. Obviously, we had that. I mean, actually still in this long from like 24.8 something. A decent bit of it as well. So this is the current trend. How can we recognize weakness in this trend? Well, losing a first volume-based support level. All you've been doing so far is you broke out of this little range here. You ranged, you broke out, you ranged again, you broke out. Even these little ranges, ranged again. Clear breakout. Now, if you start to lose the prior range that you've just come out from, point of control, that is to me signifying a definite sign of weakness within the chart. For the moment, that hasn't happened, and actually what we've got is we've actually got a potential low put in. I wouldn't really want to see this low lost. Things can get quite sketchy from that point onwards, to be honest with you. Dark, yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense. Things can get quite sketchy. I mean, obviously we had this, not obviously, but I was looking at this harmonic that we've had. Okay, obviously golden pocket to golden pocket followed by like a 786 type of retracement. You can swing failure pattern this low one more time, but yeah, and that obviously came into confluence with the point of control. You don't want to be losing this low. There's a lot of confluence here for me to be saying that, to be looking for this low to hold for higher prices. If you start to lose it, one thing on my mind is that there's a strong possibility this week that we do come and test 29,400, 29,500 zone, really testing below its liquidity. On that, from a weekly bias. So just to note, on a weekly bias, there is a good chance we come down and test this zone here. However, on like the daily bias, the chances that we actually see a bit of a rise to at least 30,450 before then seeing a bit, maybe we just blast up here. So the way I'm using these biases, let's talk about this. If I know there's a good chance we're going to come towards this red line here at 30,450, and there's also a good weekly chance that we come down here, my plan would be this. If, for example, we see a drop now before testing this zone here, I would be more interested in a potential buy opportunity to then target this level again. Alternatively, if we see a rally towards the upside from here, it continues to rally, I'll be more, because obviously we still would have left this untapped, I would then be looking for a short trade to then target back down to there. And so I'm using these biases, in my opinion, to like my importance as to how I'm going to be basically going about the week itself. And I'll go with some specific levels, a bit of, correlation between Bitcoin, ES, etc., using XO in a second. But for the moment, you can just see my plan really from there. This was a decent high we took out this morning. We took out the high. This was basically the current daily high you had here. You took that out for a swing failure pattern, dropped towards the lows, just to see another swing failure pattern locally there. And that's currently where you're being range bound between. I think the break of either one of these levels is going to be really significant. So whilst remaining within this, I would not be really interested in any sort of trade. Okay, I really wouldn't. The only potential opportunity, not my favorite, would be to see like an SFP of these local highs for a bit of a move down, but that's not on my books for me to be taking a trade based upon that yet. I'll go through your questions as well in a minute. Don't worry. I thought I'd just go with this first. Should we see another move up? Is there another level of interest for me to be shorting? Yes, there's a few that I've got in my notes. You can remove this now. The first one being like another swing failure pattern, another highs. So basically onto this naked point of control for another move down. That's also potential. But if you really start to claim the naked point of control, again, what I'll just do here is, if you really start to, this is what I was looking for potentially. If you do rally a swing failure pattern to this naked point of control, the range region, and let's say you don't reject there, there's a bit of resistance at these highs here. This one's been tapped now, I can remove that. There's a bit of resistance at 30,763, but if you clear that, I'll be really quite convinced in my own opinion that you'd be looking for new highs on Bitcoin. But obviously that hasn't happened yet, and we'll see how this goes, and we'll look at the ES correlation as well in a second. So hopefully this is making a bit of sense to you. The button, there's a decent chance we test 29.5, which I'm aware of, and that does favor me to be looking for short trades should we do see a bit of a rally here, or even from this one here this morning. Okay. Aside from that, let's move over to XO charts a little bit. Okay, and if we just basically reset this, you can see on XO charts here. Let's go over to this one here. It's a bit of a new one I'm rocking. So you've got basically in the top left hand corner, you've got the euro. Bottom left, you've got the stock market ES, and then the main panel here, you've got Bitcoin. Really quite useful for me intraday trading. When I just want to see like what is one asset doing against another. Obviously using the global cursor function, recommend that to quite a few of you, by the way. Yeah, the global cursor function is really useful. Increase this a bit. But you can see here, ES is actually pulling back right now as we speak after taking these local highs as liquidity into this inefficiency region. Not the most bullish thing, to be honest with you. Let's just take a look at a few other things. So that naked point of control for a short would be the only real like intraday short I'd be interested in further than where we are currently. To then be targeting potentially around that 29,500 region. On a bit of a higher time frame perspective, okay, let's just bring this back over. On a bit of a higher time frame perspective, hide all this, daily chart. We've obviously got these highs here that we've just swept. Now, obviously it's pulling back a little bit, and I've gone through a bit of this local current price action. But if it does want to continue up here, it wouldn't be any sort of major surprise to me, due to the aspect of like how, we basically just did this like kind of failed auction from the lows down here. Massive rally towards the upside. It would be kind of underwhelming to see it just a swing failure pattern at a high and then remain range bound for the rest of the month or two. It doesn't matter yet. This is a big range. But obviously if we see continuation above this, I would be looking at 33k, 32,700 as the bigger level. But we'll see how things pan out from there, to be honest. We'll go over the XO stuff now, but just a bit of a medium time frame perspective, I think you don't know that I'm more of an intraday day trader, hence why I went over the 15 and 5 minute stuff kind of first. Looking at this type of price action here, yeah, I mean, also coming in, if that's a naked point of control, you'd be swing failure patterning into the VWAP, the anchored VWAP from there for potential reaction. So yeah, we'll look at that. Another thing I want to just quickly see on the 15-minute chart here. This isn't even the 15-minute, this is the hourly. Onto the 15-minute here would be if I was to grab this view up from here. Daily open, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to really remain cautious to the fact that on Bitcoin, we hadn't lost that kind of volume-based support, that Gartley low, to be thinking that this can just roll over just yet. I'm really aware of that. So let's go over a few. I'll go over a few questions, and hopefully it ties into what I'm discussing anyway. Yeah, so we've got that. How could you explain how you use delta min max and rect short long in your entries? Yeah, so generally, I was discussing this a little bit on Twitter, just for like delta extensions. I'll be going over this in a bit more detail later, but you can see here, right? Let's just pick this candle here. You can see so this is the delta here. This is the final candle delta, ends on 1.3 million, but the delta max is 3.6 million. There's quite a big discrepancy between these two values. That discrepancy shows that there could potentially be a lot of trap traders within that discrepancy. Okay, you know, that's something to be aware of. You know, it ended on 1.3 million, but at its peak it was at 3.6 million. So there's a lot of potential people that are trapped there, you know, because delta was heavily extended in one direction. That's what I generally like to, in terms of like delta extensions, and I'll make sure to make this a lot clearer for you at a later date. But even I'll pick apart another one which is a bit easy to maybe identify. That's the one we just did, but you see it quite often down here as well. The candle ended on 1.4 million positive delta, ended on that. Delta max was fine, you know, these two are correlated, but you can see the delta minimum here is really quite extended from that. You can see there's a bit of a discrepancy between the final delta and the delta minimum here. You know, the candle ended green, obviously at a low, and so obviously at the low you want to be looking for extended delta minimum, and obviously at the highs you want to be looking for extended delta maximums. And down here you can see how like the delta minimum is really extended away from that final delta. Okay, rec long and short, obviously just, the way I use that is simply just looking for a bit of spike in that, similar to the way I'm looking at spike in volume. So obviously look at the last 20, how does it compare to the average? You know, that's the only way I'm looking at it. I'm not really deep diving into that too aggressively. Hello Ivalo Stefanov, hello mate. What if we rotate to the value of the prior range and hold there? Would that be bearish? No, let me just have a look here. So going back over to trading view. So what I'm assuming you're saying, just remove all of these lines now. I don't like my chart messy. I'm assuming you're saying this is the, no you can't see it, but this is the value low of this range, or this prior range. Okay, what you're saying is if we rotate down towards there, is that bearish? We would have lost the point of control. It's not going to be, yeah, it is bearish until, you know, at that point I would be bearish until you reclaim this point of control again. Okay, because aside from that you would have lost this support here is really important in my opinion, especially in confluence with that harmonic, the first volume based support level. You know, you had the range breakout, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's really quite important to me, this support. And obviously you can lose it, but I wouldn't be looking to essentially long really aggressively down here. I would be more interested in waiting for a reclaim and then taking a different approach to it from that point of view. Hopefully that makes sense. Hello guys, hello. Where you study high hit rate levels, do you track CME gap fills at one of your high? No, not CME gap fills, but there will be a time. I've built these stats, especially from even like last Monday. I remember there was something in particular, especially even today, collecting another month's worth of data in this case. These stats are really good on something I'm looking at just don't feel right to release it yet, to be honest. But there will be a time where they do come out. But what obviously I don't want you to just to be spoon fed by me, in the aspect of me just spoon feeding you these stats. Obviously, I think it's important for me to like just to be able to find high hit rate levels. I think me going through a process of how I'm finding those are quite important. I'll do that at a later date. But obviously, I'll reveal some stats at a later date as well. So yeah, obviously try to find some on your own, but also be my guest in. Yeah, I'll share these at a later date. My dynamic profile tool settings. Yes, sure, we'll do that now. So the way I've got it set up is I hit D on my keyboard, dynamic profile, and you can really go through here and see my settings. Nothing too extravagant, just so you're all aware of this. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. You can see all of that. Screenshot it, whatever you want. Next one. With which tool could you get your stats? Excel. Yep, Excel, Google Sheets. I'm not a mathematician or anything like that, so collecting stats is most of it's manual and just taking a lot of time up on my days. You don't obviously have to do it in one day, but 1 hour a day every morning. Obviously that's 7 hours a week, 14 hours every 2 weeks, 30 hours almost a month. So that's what I'd recommend. Start small, create into your daily routine, so you don't have to just spend completely going crazy looking at the chart every minute of the day or like a spreadsheet. Just want to ask you how you draw that FUVR. Is there a specific time to pull it? I mean, from what time was it? So good morning, Callus, legend. Recommend you lot check out Callus, real good friend of mine there. But in relation to, I just lost the question. Yes, what I'd recommend, I've got a whole video going over the fixed range pull on X on TradingView, a little bit of it on EXO as well. Go watch that on YouTube if you want to know. But essentially, you can see a large impulse followed by really essentially a bit of range bound price action from here starting. Hence why I'm pulling it from here, not from where the impulse first began. I'm taking it from here where price action really starts to consolidate and create some sort of fair value from that point of view, and where traders kind of get all involved together. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, mate. If we're looking for a high liquidity level, is it a must that we see at SFP, or do you still consider entering if we trade above it for a while? That's a really good question. And personally, yeah, obviously if you trade above it for a while and see something like a failed auction, that's definitely warranting a trade. I didn't trade over the weekend, but there were some really, really good trades over the weekend in relation to just liquidity levels. I remember being hit. But yeah, you can see fairly quick failed auctions, so on and so forth, above or below a level. And I think that's really, yeah, definitely. We can just find an example of this. Even here, right? You also have like a high liquidity level down here. You trade below it quite a bit. This is more of like a medium time frame trade, obviously. But you obviously trade below this level for a bit, where you're finding continuous support, liquidity, in this case, maybe down here, reclaim the level, and that can obviously then offer you a trade setup. I'll do another video on failed auctions. I personally think the way I've seen them being taught out within places might not be the most efficient way to be trading them. People will just tell you to go enter long, invalidation below the low. Yes, but you obviously have to have a struggle in terms of maximizing your RR multiple in that case. How would you feel if you can get it like this? Maybe a bit better, right? And less of a devil trade to enter, in my opinion. Okay. There's a lot of questions now. How do you get these statistics of X% chance of hitting this level within X amount of time? So, one general thing to go with is I would be like, you lot couldn't see my screen. That is irritating. Really simply, I was just looking at a level being like this one down here, saying this is a potential failed auction. You want to be looking for essentially, people obviously advertise failed auctions as looking like this, but obviously I'd recommend trying to have a bit of a smaller invalidation. And there's so many different ways using Orderflow in which you can do that to benefit from your edge. So yeah, I'll be discussing that at a later date. What I was going to get into, how do I get these statistics, X% chance? Well, typically it's a level that resets every day. A level, just think of anything, and you know, a particular open line. You know, let's just take the daily open for example. Monday's daily open, okay? Right, Monday daily open. You know, it opens Monday through Sunday. You know, so it's opened every day. You know, the daily open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My idea is, okay, let's just think of an idea and corroborate this in my head now. What is the likelihood that Monday open is tested, you know, within, or, you know, that the open is tested within 2 days of it being, you know, formed in some format. But the idea is not to just gather level, or, you know, on that, but then you can obviously like create probabilities based upon the day it is, because a Monday open level, let's just say today, might have a greater, you know, if we just put it on the daily chart, for example, what is the likelihood that on a daily chart, this, you know, the Monday open here is tested on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on and so forth? What's the likelihood that happens? What's the then likelihood it happens on a Tuesday, the next day, Wednesday, so on and so forth? Okay, so what we can then do, let's just pick one apart, just an example, just come up with something in my head here. So this is the Monday level here, right? This is the previous week's Monday candle. And we can go, look, this is where the open is. It wasn't tested Tuesday, it wasn't tested Wednesday, it wasn't tested Thursday. And then therefore for me, I'm just like, it's not going to help me form any sort of buys for 3 days worth of price action. It's not in this case, it didn't, you know, it didn't get tested. Let's just go back, you know, did the Tuesday one get tested this time? No, again, straight towards the upside. It wasn't tested 1, 2, 3 days later. But obviously if you go back a few weeks, this Monday open was tested the next day. So that's the way you just build up statistics in that case, based upon each individual day as well, can be really useful. Okay. Yeah. How much of it, okay. Can you explain CV divergences for Callus? For Callus, I think Callus probably understands CVD divergences. I won't dive into that too much. Again, a lot of this stuff, if there's like generic questions, I'll just refer you to a video where I do a whole topic on it. So just go, if you want CVD divergences, there's a whole video on it on YouTube for free. Just go give that a watch. How much of extended delta minimum maximum relative to the final delta is sufficient for you to consider it when taking the trade? Well, it's not the primary source that I'm going, this is the only thing I'm looking at to take a trade. But obviously, if I'm looking at a piece of data and I can see that generally, you know, it adds it to Confluence, and I go, let's just bring it over to EXO this time. And if I'm like, okay, there's a spike in volume, there's a trap value, this is the perfect scenario. Okay, so in this candle here, let's just look at this candle here on its own. You've got a trapped value area, you know, the close is down below here. Okay, you then got a spike in volume, liquidations, cool, and then I'll go, okay, how does the delta look? Well, clearly you've actually got extended negative delta down here, even better. And also another thing to just, I don't want to get too advanced, I won't mention that yet, it's just getting advanced, but yeah, it's not the primary focus, but it's like the cherry on the cake. If I look at the rest of the stuff and it goes cool and this adds to it, it's like, okay, really quite good stuff, and I'll add to that. Do you trade a reclaim simply? Simply, I mean, your trade should be sourced from your invalidation. Where are you wrong on a trade before you enter? Always know that before you enter any sort of trade. So if you're trading a reclaim, let's just pick apart this one here. Okay, I would then say to myself, just down here, right, let's just imagine this is the low, right, and we're going, okay, well, I want to trade this reclaim. Typical people's idea would be they're going to long upon the reclaim, whatever it may be, invalidation below the low, because that's where they're wrong. But in my head, I can always think to myself, well, I don't have to be wrong if it comes all the way down here, you know, because technically price shouldn't be really revisiting anywhere back in towards the POC region. So I would go take a fixed range pull of this local range here, that range that you just broke out from, point of controls down here, or you can even dive in a bit further and go, where's there any high volume nodes? Here, point of control obviously down here. And I would go, okay, well, you don't want to be losing any of these. So rather than having a whole invalidation which is below the low, you can increase your final R by minimizing this by just using order flow. Not only, this is a really simple way of doing it, but another way you could do it is go, okay, depends on what scenario you're going to be looking at. Where's the anchored VWAP? You know, you don't want to see it drop below there. Depends where it is. The other one, a more favorite one, is okay on this local uptrend. Obviously the point of control is down here still, high volume node still there. Looking at stuff upon a current trend is really useful for using FOMO validation, rather than just putting it below a swing low where I can increase my R multiple by actually moving it a bit around a bit. So yeah, definitely note that down. What do you think of the SFP? Mine's from in Delta. I took it. I'll discuss it. Heading over to EXO. I'm guessing you mean the 5 minute probably. Oh no, minus 5.5 minutes. That's probably 15 minute. Yeah, it's a decent one. I mean, it was a decent trade if you got in near the lows, because obviously you actually got a spike in volume. Delta was, I wouldn't say this extended. There's no real discrepancy there. You see what I mean? There's no real max discrepancy between those values. Minus 6.3 million. There's a few. It's all right. It's all right. It's like a C grade setup, generic setup. I'm not going to flaunt you for taking it at all, because for me that would be at a key level as well. Correct. Hey, that's. But how can we find those? Yeah, I'll do a video on finding these high hit rate levels. I get a lot of questions on them, but honestly, I'm not the brightest of brains. I'm not the brightest. I'm quite clever, but I'm if you think I'm just pulling stuff, out of thin air and trying to, I don't know, I'm sort of mathematician finding all these figures and stuff. Nope, not at all. And when you see the video on it, you'll understand how. Hey, that's great stream. Do you think there will be a time when EXO has aggregated exchange data for the order flow? Cheers. Yes, there should be. That should be something relatively I don't know when. I can give you a bit of a timeline to things. We've got to iron out a few DX feed ES issues that we currently have. If you're aware of those, obviously, if you're experiencing those, drop me a DM on Discord, tag me in the Discord, on the EXO Discord, and we'll help to try and resolve those. And then obviously after that, the plan is to actually integrate live trading within EXO. That will be like insane. And then obviously I think aggregated data after that point. What do we look for in the open interest? Example, OI is increasing, price is increasing, and there's liquidity level above one on the candle itself. We see increasing OI. On the candle itself, we see increasing OI. Yeah, I'm more interested, I have a framework. At a key level of interest, what is open interest doing? Obviously, you can be looking at what's happening leading up to a level. But I should just probably really be using EXO for this. Let's find an example. So like here, this is a good example. I remember this is like what I meant by a really good trade over the weekend. Yeah, this happened on the Saturday. High here, let's just mark this out. You then swing failure pattern the high, and I'm not really, obviously I'm interested in a little bit in this stuff below it, not really. The majority of this, what's happening within this swing failure pattern, and open interest increasing, positive delta, spike in volume for a weekend, spike in volume on any day. This is a spike in volume. With obviously, like, I wouldn't say this is any sort of significant liquidations by any means, but it's fulfilled a lot of the other criterias, trap value, etc. So yeah, that is how I'd go about that. Okay. I'd look at the candle itself, decipher the info, the what, the where, what's going on in the candle, where is it going on, the majority within the value area. So think like that a little bit. This is interesting. These lot are moving up quite a bit. Well, you can just see here, ES been moving up over the course of the last hour or so. Bitcoin obviously it's been moving up a bit, but it's seeing this pullback here. It's not showing too much strength. How do you know we don't break out? Doesn't an OI increase in candles before the SFP candle indicate that the uptrend will be strong with new longs coming in? Can we still look for your SFP? Yeah, I would. Like I said, I'd really, just to kind of refrain onto what I said earlier, I would be really looking at the candle of interest at the level. For me, what's going on at the level. That is really important for me. Is there a spike in volume? Is there liquidations? I don't complicate my trading. I really understand the questions you lot are asking, because for me, when I started, that's something I would always ask myself: how is this move coming into a level? What's going on, etc. Trying to understand context in a bit more detail, which obviously can occur. But for the moment, to simplify things down, I really just recommend looking at the level of interest, what's going on in that candle. Have you trapped any traders? What's the trap value area doing? Is there a spike in volume? Is there liquidations? And that type of stuff. So try not to overcomplicate things. A brief introduction to TPO, poor high, poor low, please. Yeah, I can do. There's a video on it, so I don't want. Not to say to waste someone's time at all, but there are videos literally on the channel going over a bit about TPO, poor highs and lows. Simply looking at. I'll really very quickly discuss it. Let me just do this. So open this up. Simply, this is a TPO chart. I don't want to see more than one block at the low of the profile, or more than one block at the high of the profile. That is a poor high or poor low. One brief example of this is here. You can see at the top of the profile, you've got 2 blocks. That is a poor high. Okay, likelihood that has a greater likelihood of being tested. Okay, similar if I was to choose down here, you can see poor low, greater likelihood of being tested. Doesn't mean it's going to be 100% tested, but it's got a greater likelihood of being tested. We can't see trading view screen. Okay. I think okay, that was from earlier. How do you draw that FBVR? Is there a specific time to pull it? Or that question? On that question. Oh, right. Okay. I think I've covered that already. Can I develop an indicator based on my stats? Really interesting question, because actually I have a set of, I don't want to call them indicators. Indicators which really actually do, I can see what's the likelihood of X level being hit soon. So yeah, it's definitely possible. Do I need it? Not really. It's amalgamation of tools which help me form, make it really clear to know which level I think is going to be hit and when and why. Loving your work, man. Been studying and stuff for 4 months now, and highly profitable, and now finally profitable. Looking forward to the future and more advanced stuff. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. What would be your recommendation for someone trading on the move like me? I like to use your data, but can't really get it on my phone. If you're on the move, I mean, this is something I've never really had. I've always had it where I'm trading in a more relaxed environment. I would highly recommend you get a laptop. I'm sure you probably got one already, but get a laptop and try and trade on that when you can. You want to have as calm an environment as possible. Not trading whilst driving. I think that's something I'd recommend. Do you still use volume candlestick charts to trade? No, well, volume candles, I think, is what you're referring to. A little bit, not as much as I used to. No, but I used to a little bit. Callus, very funny, very funny. If the top doesn't have double prints, but it only has one single print or 2, do you consider it a poor high, or does it have to be no single prints? Yeah, it has to be 2 at the top at the minimum. So at the top of a TPO profile, it's got to have 2 at the top at the very high. Yes. Is there an ETL when you could trade from XO? Not yet. If I said that and got you excited, don't think that's going to happen yet. At least, at the minimum, a few months. At the minimum. I have trouble holding a trending move, thinking it will reverse soon. Is there a way in XO to determine whether the move will continue? Not just in XO, but there's move just on TradingView. I think, I want you lot to, I'm going to be real with you lot. I'm a trader, right? I work at XO as well. But I'm not going to tell you lot to overuse XO when there's times when you don't need to. I think a lot of the time I use XO as it's a big part of it, but there's obviously times where you can just be on TradingView. Not trying to overcomplicate things, because I think people jump into exo charts and get instantly overcomplicate everything with the data that they're provided with, which is not really good for them. Things you can be looking for in terms of determining weakness. Don't just, how often, right, have I seen people just do this where they are, they're shorting like a move like this, right? This move, they're shorting it. But how often have you just seen it V-shape right back down? It's rare. It's very rare. It will usually have some sort of distribution in some sense. It will range before maybe then seeing a drop in price and then finally dropping. You would have had this range at the top. It was not going to just V-shape back towards the downside. So don't try and fade it in that sense, if that's what you're trying to ask, I think. Broken BT dumped to 25k by September. I want to buy more alts. Let's see. Really tough one at the moment where we are now. Obviously, the trend is up. Let's do a little bit of work on this briefly. I'll come back to the question in a second. This is a really. I've always had this as a crucial level. This low here. If you reclaim that, things really start to pick up. Just had to have a taste of my drink. Yeah, this low here. If you start to reclaim that, you're entering a different territory, my friends, I think. But obviously you need to hold above that level. Follow up, not to nag. When's the video with trading view indicators being dropped that can help show some of the data used? Yeah, it's difficult. I'm going to be completely honest with everyone here. I find it difficult sometimes to find a balance between giving away an edge without giving everything away. Because there's certain things now which if I showed directly and then provided stats on it, I can almost guarantee that I haven't seen anyone else anywhere do stuff like this. So I'm kind of just a bit cautious on giving out certain things as such. Like, honestly, because it's taken me a lot of time to develop stats like this. So I don't know if I'm just willing to just give it away straight away and it might affect its edge, and that's what I don't want to happen. So I'm a bit cautious on that front. That's why it may take time. If I really wanted to, it could be done today. That's the truth. It's just I'm cautious about revealing potential edge in that sense. But yeah, it will be there at some point. I just need to find a few ways around it. But it may take a bit of time. There's going to be what will happen. The truth is there will be a lag between when I find out about it and then when obviously I've used it and you find some stuff about it and then I release it. There'll be a lag, and that lag's obviously a bit beneficial to me, but it also will still help you out drastically when it is out. So hopefully that makes sense. I know the trade size divs come in the future, but do you have an ETA for that? Maybe a more in-depth video soon on the divs. Yes, that will be coming. Again, really useful tool. Yeah, bear with me, everyone. Okay, I apologize for that. But yeah, that's what I'd recommend now. Bro, BlackRock won't buy BTC. Okay, I think they'll manipulate the market, and by that time, it doesn't really mean anything to me. Manipulation, whatever it may be, I don't really care too much. Could you please cover XO DOM and how you find it useful? Any tips on it? Yeah, I don't mind going over this, to be honest. It's not. I think people overhype the DOM sometimes. Or should I just save that? I don't really use the DOM too much. That's the truth. I can just do a whole video on that for the YouTube, because I'll do an in-depth video on the DOM because I don't use it too much. But there was a time where I did use it quite a bit. Not to say it's bad at all now. It doesn't give me a specific edge or help me in a way that it used to. So again, just many different ways to view things. Afternoon Roynick, legend. How's it going, mate? Curious to know if you're still using your own New York Open strat. New York Open strat. You might need to rejig my memory a little bit there. Uh, New York Open strat. Which one was that? Obviously, it opens at 12 for me. Glad to see you here too, Roinick, as well. It's good to see everyone joining in. And I appreciate you all, by the way, for the support on the channel. It means a lot. If there's anything else you lot... I know there's a ton of stuff I'm yet to cover. But it will be arriving at some point, don't you worry. Yeah, let's keep it going. Bitcoin obviously seeing a bit of a move up. Let's just analyze this together here. Let it load up. What are we seeing? What am I seeing? So you've had that New York initial move towards the upside, drop from here. Okay, I mean, it doesn't really pay too much attention. Mean too much to me. Why? Because if we just head back over to trading view, like I said, we literally had two swing failure patterns, and like for me, whilst in between that, there isn't any trades to be taking too much, so I wouldn't be over trading this. Price revisiting for the retest. Okay, so there's a few. Revisiting. Oh, I know exactly which one you're on about, Roinick. Yes, okay. So it's the idea that New York Open. So basically, New York Open would be here. Then this is the reason why this makes a lot of sense. I haven't been using it too much, but New York would open. So we just go on like the 5 minute. I look at this more in the 15-minute for your information, but if we just go on like the 15-minute, this 15-minute candle will open down here. Got that went out the window, but basically it would open here. Where's the New York Open? And if it's like an untested New York Open, you would expect price to revisit it again within that session. We can have a chat on it because there's definitely a something we can talk about in terms of like the stats that I've got for this new type of things that I'm working on, for sure. So yeah, I mean, this was like this was put out within a session in terms of like how to form bias. So I'd go watch that video as well for anyone interested in this. Definitely go and watch that. Also, the London high swing failure patterns. Yes, I'll enable this. This is what I was on about. So this obviously, like you can see here, really quite cool. So New York, this is what I was referring to. New York would open, drop, right, and then you'd be like, oh well, this is left untapped. I wouldn't like that. Price would then revisit it, giving you an opportunity to buy on this drop, and then go back and test it again. Obviously not every time where you get an initial drop upon the open on the 15-minute candle, but it will occur, and when it does occur, you can use that to your advantage. Even like here, it opens here, moves all the way up towards the high. You're thinking, okay, well, this is still likely to be tested at 3140, potential short opportunity if this is at a key level of interest. Obviously it tests it and that's it. It's very kind of a short-winded thing, but even look at this one. This is why I remember looking at these stats, and I'm happy to share this one now. Like, go for it, do your research on it because this is still useful. I think Bitcoin's getting a bit of a move up here. You can see the high, obviously you got the open, moves really far towards the upside, sweeps this upside liquidity before then just revisiting that open again, and that's it tapped. It's not an SR level of anything, it just got a high level of being tested. So yes. That was really, really useful. So realistically, my best days for trading will probably end up being today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. I like my best days for trading, so bear that in mind. What we should be doing now, actually, if we just put this back on 0, remove all the indicators, we can see what's the ES doing, what is Euro and DX. Obviously, these two are just mirroring each other. If anyone that didn't know, you can get like the Euro order flow on EXO. So we'll just bring this up. You can see I like to keep this pinned here now. You can always have these different things. Really, really useful for those of you who are interested in this. Definitely like have open the Bitcoin or like some other, you can have like the tab groups. Really, really useful. We can see here 15-minute chart. ES, that doesn't look so bullish because look on the ES. This has potential to have like extended delta. This. So if we're just looking at this, obviously it hasn't closed or anything yet. That's what you want to wait for. Oh, okay, it's closed. Look at this discrepancy here. This isn't madly bullish. This isn't insanely bullish, I'm going to be honest with you. You can just see the final delta is this much. Extended delta is like twice as much. Delta max is like twice as much. With like a trap value area with the POC relatively near the high. Would I say it's a spike in volume? A little bit, but nothing too major. Just hopefully that helps a little bit for you out there. Yeah. If you haven't liked the stream, by the way, be sure to give it a like. It doesn't really mean anything, but to be honest, I don't know why I'm mentioning that. Do it if you wish. Yeah, hopefully this was making sense though in terms of what I'm covering, in terms of looking at these delta discrepancies, and so on and so forth. Hopefully that's quite useful. But yeah, for Bitcoin, I just wanted to recap for those of you who are here now what my plan would be for the week, because obviously that's kind of, and why this is my plan for the week is more important. We obviously have a bit of a high hit rate level above here. Well, exact, I think it's around here. I think it's there. Yeah. So I wouldn't really be shorting right here. On the other side, we've obviously got the volume based support here. There's a decent chance that we test around these lows at some point this week. So today, tomorrow, we still should be testing this, but throughout the week, 29,500 zones important. So like the ideal scenario would be to see some sort of move above these highs here to 30,630, swing failure pattern. Maybe we don't know what happens there, but maybe that can then take us back down to there. If we don't get any reaction there, obviously I'd be looking for, not obviously, but 30,770, this level here. And if you reclaim this, well, I don't see much stopping it from testing new highs again. So I think it's a very clear plan on that front. Maybe one short of this here region here, maybe another one above there, and another long should we really come down to 29,500 to sweep this overall low. But we'll see how that pans out. Okay. I won't end this stream yet or anything, so don't disappear or anything on me. Where is this? Yeah. What are the settings on the volume setting? Yeah, I'll go over that in a minute. It's just a reaction of CV divergence in it, selling pressure absorbed. Yeah, it is. But obviously the way you view the data is very different to the way the data can be portrayed sometimes. So hence why I like to look at the delta max and minimum. Really, really useful tool. Let's just take a look from this high here. Take one of these tools. Yeah, we've got a few anchored V-ups to still get through here. But really, with all those high time from key levels, we've got we've got a lot of levels here. I'm gonna remove this weekly level now, to be honest. We rejected off this daily. There's a lot of levels here. Dave, am I curious to know if there's any portfolio hedge opportunities in this region? Yeah, I personally do think. So what I'll do here, that's actually got me thinking even more. Not yet, but there is the opportunity to do so if this starts to lose. I believe it was where I was discussing earlier. Yeah. So what I'm looking at now, let's just go really in depth here. Let's just quickly make these white so you can see everything. Okay. Obviously, like the regular idea is I'm going to hedge once we lose value area high. That's obviously all the way down at 2800 now. The alternative method for me would be like to look at where's the high volume profiles outside of this. And for me, I would go to myself, okay, well, as soon as we really lose this, you've got this is your high volume clusters here. As soon as you lose this kind of the lower portion of this level here, 29,900, there isn't much support until the value area high. So like it might be, that was loud. Until we lose this really region here, I'll be thinking we're going to be testing that value area high. So if we do lose this zone convincingly, do lose 29.9. If we do lose 30, even if we lose 30,000, really is the idea. Then you can be looking for a hedge, right? A hedge opportunity. It's not a trade, but you can be looking for a hedge. You don't know where it could bring back down to, because obviously on the daily time frame. If this pulls back from here, it wouldn't look amazing. I'm going to be honest with you. If it pulls back from here really sharply, it wouldn't look amazing. Because obviously we would have seen a swing failure pattern. I feel a lot of the market, this is nothing to do with analysis, technical analysis, just a bit of market sentiment through what you hear, what you see, etc. Where I feel like a lot of the market is really bullish, looking for 32k. Personally, I don't think if we get there we reject. I do feel if we get to 32,000 it just really squeezes through, or it front runs it here and it pulls back. So yeah, that's why I'd be a bit more aggressive on hedging should it definitely lose 30,000, because I think it would catch a lot of people off guard in that front for sure. But we'll have to wait and see. And of course, I want to mention to you all, obviously I do these live trade breakdowns and such. Go and watch them on the channel or on my Twitter and stuff. It's really quite useful. Okay. Well, I'd like to think they're quite useful. If you want to go watch them out, I go quite in depth on specific trades and whatnot. And you'll be seeing some this week from me. I do have a lot of flying this week, so yeah, I'll be keeping you posted. But still, content and everything should still be regular. I just want to bring this over to EXO. I know everyone likes the EXO stuff as well. And hopefully the stream quality is really good as well. Hopefully so. So you can see here the euro is currently... these are the sessions are messed up. This is, yeah, this needs to be fixed. Okay, well, we're currently seeing a bit of a pullback on both of these, ES and the euro. Okay, and if obviously the reason I'm looking at euro, that's highly correlated with the DXY, and obviously if they're, that obviously has an influence on ES, and that obviously has a follow-up influence on Bitcoin. This is like a really good setup, really, really good. If you're using EXO, go for it. Okay. Forget the quality of video. The quality is kind of... yeah, no, I just want to make sure that you can all see the text and font, etc. really well. Because sometimes I know I watch it back and it's like it's a bit blurry. I'm like, what's going on? When you can release ESXO template, I'll release it this week. Yeah, I'll release it this week definitely. I'll definitely release it this week, so be on the lookout for that on Twitter. I've covered quite a few things. Be sure to get your questions in, because I'm here to answer anything you don't want to go over, anything I post about, etc. But this is a really good setup, and obviously use the tab groups. Use them because obviously this is like I've got the correlation Bitcoin, euro, and the ES, and even like down here what you can have is like trading view. Whatever tabs up you can have in silico, etc. And so on and so forth. It's quite useful. And on this one I've got like all my Bitcoin stuff in more detail. Let's look at something here actually. I didn't look at this earlier, so it makes sense to look at this now. I mean, look at the amount of longs coming in at the high there. Within London session, this was, you can see the point of control in terms of longs. New longs opening was at the highs, and that was coming in at 30,550. You know, which should be a bit of caution towards that level. What we can also do is just take a dynamic profile tool from those down. This is more, it's fairly even. I was going to say it's a bit more bullish because, so what am I doing? I'll do this on the hourly, probably a bit easier to show this on the hourly actually, give more accurate data as well. Bear with me. Okay, so we'll shrink this up. Dynamic profile from here towards the low. It's fairly even. The CVD is like just about negative, and the open interest is just about positive from this point in the chart. Yeah. If anything, there's more new shorts coming in. Just about. Why is that of interest to me? Because I'd be thinking they're gonna get squeezed. You know, doesn't make sense to reward those shorts so aggressive so easily. But it's not really extended in one direction. It's fairly even. So I wouldn't just be like 100% on this one at all. Yeah. Okay, a few questions. How did you find the levels posted on Twitter from earlier this morning? Sure. I don't know. Yeah, I'll go over that. So obviously in my morning routine, I go over liquidity levels. And the levels for me really this morning were really going over this, like the 15-minute. And I was thinking to myself here, if we just put this on high-low indicator, at the time, the daily high was here. The current daily high was here. That's why like, I didn't mark the previous high. I marked out this high here. And that was a bit more interesting to me to see liquidity taken there. On the flip side, I also marked out this level. Why? If we just put on this template here for indicators, you'll be able to see really clearly. Above this high here, right, you can see that there's a big gap in swing highs almost to the bigger high there. Good for reactions, good for potential first time setups off these levels, and really, really useful on that front. Hopefully that makes sense, Olivier. I took a long at 3249. I mean, it depends on your plan. Depends on your plan. Good morning. Would using volume candles be helpful to combine with your setup, or do you think they are very helpful with this current setup you have? It's really down to your own preference, but I haven't been using them as of late too much, so bear that in mind. Yeah, bear that in mind. How do you go about looking at a new chart every day? Like right now, what are you looking to enter a trade this weekend for? Nothing, no trade to enter this weekend, but throughout the week, I'm primarily a Bitcoin trader. There'll be definitely times where I'm going to go over an altcoin with you and stuff, so don't worry about that, because I know there's a bunch of altcoin fanatics out there. But if you're an altcoin fanatic, you best be telling me you're like professionally trading and like making money on a daily basis, because if you're not, I would tell you to strip out all those altcoins you're trading. Yeah, no worries. I mean, the stream will end in around 5 minutes or so, so you're not missing out too much. It's always re-uploaded as well onto YouTube. Just click on the live section on my channel and you'll be able to see all the stuff there. Not going yet at all, but just thought I'd put that out there for any of you that do have to go. And the reason I do it at this time is so that I'm fully focused for the New York session. Should any of those levels be hit, and I'm prepared to take trades off them. Do subscribe if you haven't already, by the way. Yeah, we're kind of shooting up on the subs, which is great to see. And I appreciate it highly. There'll be more stuff to do, and you know, I'm sure there's quite a few people DMing me on Twitter, and I do want to mention to those of you who do so, do ping me multiple times. I would do try to get around to essentially everyone. I do try, but obviously over time it's getting a bit more difficult. But when obviously, you know, just drop me a DM, ping me again. and I'll be able to get to it. But hopefully you can rewatch this stream multiple times. The last one as well, I highly recommend, the content, you just go and rewatch some of it, because I go over last week's one as well. A lot of questions coming in and whatnot. I generally like to keep these around an hour, but they're going to be weekly every damn week. Okay. So any final questions? I'll give you a second. Any final questions? You can always ping me again on Twitter and whatnot. But yeah, let's see. Probably taking a bit of delay. No? Okay. Well, I appreciate all of you for joining. I don't want to keep you all here much longer, but yeah, check out my Twitter at Luxury with an extra Y if you're just here from the YouTube. I'm sure the majority of you are here from Twitter anyway. But yeah, it is really appreciated. Are my pupils massively profitable? I'll end on this one. Some of them are. Not all, no, because a lot of them come to learn. But there is 3 which are yes. So thank you all for watching. I'll end it on that one, and I'll catch you all later. Have a good day.